It is now 10:06 and time for the Saturday special with Michael Zwerling.
Griffin Queener.
Yeah, that's me.
May I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Do you think you talk fast enough?
No.
Whoa. This is hard.
Really?
I mean, we are thrilled that we have a young person like you on our staff.
Okay.
We're thrilled. So don't, I got to say that first to set up the rest of what I'm going to say.
Of course, yeah.
But most of us, older, people who need help to cross the street can't follow your speech pattern at the current speed, let alone.
Oh, okay,
and I asked you, now, I cracked up while you were doing this because Dave Michaels is here, and he did an impression of you.
He did? Is it accurate? Go for it. Go. I want to hear it.
Do it.
I don't know.
Dave,
come on.
It's cool. Just.
Here we go.
And you think that's too slow?
Yeah, it's definitely too slow.
What's going to become of our station?
I don't know.
When everybody dies off,
I have to challenge
all the
myself,
younger people, maybe you need to talk faster to get
exactly. If I don't keep my speed up now, how am I gonna, talk fast enough for my generation when you all die out?
God. It's a good point.
That's a good point, I guess, MZ.
I can't argue with that.
No.
Die out?
Yeah. Oh, come on. You have to face your reality sometime, Billy.
Well, I'll be out at the Dave Cave, MZ. Maybe this is a good spot for the anti-aging pack. We have one of those as well, right?
Do we have one of them?
We do. We do have an anti-aging
pack. Do we have more than
pack.
one of them?
We have about 4 or 5
How
of
many?
those.
Are there more than that many listeners in our audience today for the Saturday special that want to be anti-aging?
I'm sure some of them could use it. We also have some makeup cream or wrinkle cream as well, MZ, which is relatively new. I don't use it. I mean, I don't know, but we've got it out there. Yeah, out at the Dave Cave. Stop by today. I'll be out there till 2 p.m.
I've been told that's one thing that's not wrong with being fat.
What?
That you don't need anti-wrinkle cream.
Really?
Because you don't have the wrinkles. Because, the fat is,
It's kind of puffed up, right?
Right,
like
already.
an inflated balloon versus a deflated balloon.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyhow, these are all things that you can deal with later on.
Seriously, though, wrinkles, if you remember, we had an interview with pharmacist Ben Fuchs the other day. He said if that's something that you want to decrease, keep your skin healthy, glucogel is what you want to add. Glucogel is good for more than just, rebuilding your cartilage and joints.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that was the first time I had heard that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll be out there in the Dave Cave, MZ, until 2 p.m. I know you got a good show coming up, so I'm going to be out there listening, and I look forward to it.
I'm so excited. We have a mystery guest today. Anyhow, thank you, Griffin Queener. Thank you, Dave Michaels. And let's start the show.
Good morning. A brighter day is here. Good morning. May we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes, and temperature.
Get up and go, it's today you know on KSCO Radio.
Get up and go, it's today you know on KSCO Radio. I think I'll say that again. Get up, no, never mind. It's because there's going to be no time for karaoke today. I just couldn't help myself. And I know it wasn't in tune, but at least I tried. Stay with us for the next almost 2 hours. I think you'll be happy you did.
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
Some people say that the current uber-polarized state of politics in the United States has its roots in 50-plus years of nearly exclusive left-wing indoctrination of students by teachers in our colleges and universities. My mother, Kay, was quite disturbed about this and made it the topic of several of her commentaries over the years. So it's about time we tackled this subject on the KSCO special. In fact, it's long overdue. Chalk that up to the fact that very few, if any, individuals with first-hand knowledge of this abuse in education are willing to be whistleblowers. But we've got one, provided
we disguise that person's voice
And we will. Join us this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, right here on In This Age of Whistleblowing. We will certainly do our part to serve radio, FM 104.1 and AM 1080 KSCO. Have a mystery guest today. Good morning, mystery guest.
Good morning, Michael.
How are you feeling today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. If you could speak up even more, because the voice, the electronic voice disguiser takes some of the level away too. So if you wouldn't mind.
You got it.
Oh, good. Okay. So I was thrilled that you agreed to come on and talk about this topic. It's sort of like I don't know, it's a shame that people have to feel this way, but it's sort of like going out in Santa Cruz with a Make America Great Again hat, or in San Francisco. It's something that you've got to think twice before doing. And I guess you had to think twice before you agreed to do this, because, I don't know, there could be all kinds of ramifications, right?
Yes, there's a vindictiveness about differences in opinions, especially if you're part of the elite indoctrinated.
Tell us your background, please, and how you got involved in this, and how over the year, it was quite a period of time that you were right in the thick of it, right?
Yes. I retired from the University of California system after 20 years. And during that 20 years, I probably worked with at least 10,000 students.
Wow. Okay, I won't ask you how, but you obviously did, so.
Yes. I would meet these students, often high school students visiting the college for the first time, or during orientation for students who had been accepted. And I would interact with these students through their undergraduate and graduate matriculation.
What does matriculation mean? I've heard that term so many times, and I've never had the guts to ask what it means or look it up. It's a funny sounding word.
It is. I think the simplest way to state it is that the students go through the steps quarter to quarter, semester to semester, year to year. And then they come out the other side, graduated.
So matriculation has nothing to do with indoctrination.
Well, if you are matriculating, you are becoming indoctrinated.
And that's the way that's the way you believe it is throughout the higher education system in our country. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but because you already said that you came from one particular university for over 20 years, who were employed.
Yes.
Do you think that that the indoctrination is more or less going on everywhere in the country?
Yes, with few exceptions.
Okay. Why do you think that is the case?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm really not sure, and I would like our audience to suggest their opinions.
That's great. And we will certainly, I'm going to open the phone lines right now, actually. much earlier than we normally do here when we have a Saturday special of particular substance, as I would certainly characterize today's. 831-479-1080 is the phone number to call and participate in this program. Mystery Guest and I, I'm going to call you MG, Mystery Guest. Mystery Guest and I are both intrigued as to why you think, or maybe you don't agree with us. If you don't agree with us, give us a call anyhow. Let us know that you think we're all wet and why. But both of us feel that there is much more indoctrination going on in higher education in the United States of America than education. Just like I feel, I can't speak for Mystery Guest on this, but I feel that there's no such thing as journalism anymore. There's just commentary. Everybody has an agenda. And what used to be the news is not the news anymore. It's just a collection of commentaries and opinions. Paul Harvey used to have his news and comment. They called it Paul Harvey News and Comment, okay? But now everything that they call news is not news at all. It's all comment, and they should call it comment, but they don't. Anyhow, my name is MZ. I'm the host of the KSCO Saturday Special on your favorite radio station, AM 1080 and FM 104.1 KSCO. Okay, and if you want to call us, it's 479-1080. That's area 831. If you want to email me, it's mz@ksco.com. I should bring up my emails so I can see them. But we do have a caller already. Let's take that caller. That would be Ben in Santa Cruz. Has a question for MG. Go ahead. Hey, Ben, how you doing?
Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to remembering Dave Allen, my old buddy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Dave was great.
And, yeah, anyway, so one of the creepy things about the university, I went to UC Santa Cruz and dropped out because I had so many job offers back in the day when jobs were plentiful here in Santa Cruz before they got run off due to politics. But they tried really hard to indoctrinate me up there as well as in the junior college level. And it's a bullying deal where they get you into courses that you have to take to get your degree. You have to filter through these courses, and the courses I'm talking about are the liberal arts studies and the courses on, different cultures and things like that. And
excuse me, Ben, this is not just UCSC, but I've often wondered why there are so many liberal arts colleges, but I've never heard of a conservative arts college.
Well, this is the deal, Mike. It's like what they don't teach you or what they try to pull you away from, and they do it. They just beat it into your brain that you can't think for yourself. They don't want you to come up with your own internal voice telling you that's wrong. You know what I mean? They try to make you forget that you actually have a choice, and that their choice that they're trying to jam down your throat is the only choice.
Okay, I believe that. Now, why do you think that's the case, Ben?
Because I believe, and this goes back to antiquity, now that I've done my homework, and learned on my own, that I think they're trying to continue this collective amnesia, or, this forgetfulness, this amnesia. They try to keep you blind so that you don't know the true history of our planet, and you don't know what's common sense. And I'll mention this. This is a touchy subject, but people don't want to talk about it, but I will. The agenda right now to promote different sexual lifestyles other than normal lifestyles where you procreate and have a family and continue the human race. What they're promoting now is genocide with the LGBTQ, whatever you want to call it. They're promoting human genocide. All it's going to take, it's really, it's crazy. It's like population control. They're trying to manage population, and now they've just gone all about, they've gone overboard with the sexuality end of it to then further.
I agree with you, but again, why do you think that's the case? This is what I want to get to, because I want to get people thinking. You must have some thoughts about this, because you.
Well, this is what I think is going on, Mike. And me and Dave Allen back in the day used to talk about this all the time. It's probably the reason why he started his radio show with you when we were down there. And my father spent 35 years in the Air Force in missiles. I know the real story. I know what really goes on. He told me everything before he died. And I think we are being micromanaged by the beings that populated this planet with us. That's what it's coming down to. We're being micromanaged by different factions of that. And it's just controlling us. And I think they're dumbing everybody down to a certain level of complacency and compliance.
So it really boils down to mind control, right?
Correct. And we're being mind controlled at many different levels, and it's not. Let's just say it what it is. It's entities or beings from another planet or whatever you want to call it.
See, when you go there, I think you lose a bunch of people. I think you lose a bunch of people. I'm not discouraged. If that's what you believe, hey, the Saturday special and all of KSCO is all about people speaking their mind. But when you went there, you lost a little bit of me, and I like you, and I think we both love Dave Allen and everything.
But this is where it's going. It's like you can brush with so many different strokes and different colors of paint, but what's really going on? I think what's really going on is that I think that there's something much bigger, much more diabolical, much more heavy, and people don't want to even talk about it. They want to go in La La Land and put on the blind.
Is there anybody listening today who doesn't want to talk about it and would prefer to be in La La Land? Call 479-1080 in area 831.
Hey, Mike, I'll let you go.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Good to hear from you. Okay, well, so MG, I put it out there, and what I got was some sort of a conspiracy theory, and I'm not into conspiracy theories. I'm willing to keep my mind open and hear anything and listen to as much as people until it bores me to death, and then I don't want to listen anymore. We didn't get anywhere near there with Ben's call. He was the one who ended the phone call, and maybe it was maybe it was because I spoke my mind and said, hey, come on. I mean, but maybe he's right. Maybe there are people. Maybe there are. What are the aminals? No. What are they? Reptile. What did he say that?
I believe Ben referred to entities. That wasn't exactly his word. But let's go back to where he started his conversation. It's true. There are mandatory classes that students must take. And they start with titles like these: environmental racism, social justice, white privilege, community activism, global activism, control of public health. When you take these classes, you have to agree with your professor. You have to write in the language that you are taught.
And if you don't, do you get an F? Do you fail the class?
Yes.
For positive?
Yes.
Isn't that a little? Isn't that too?
Or you drop the class.
Too brazen? I mean, how could? Wow. It's sort of like if you don't believe what I believe, you fail.
Exactly.
Whoa! That's not acceptable.
It is in our higher education.
Okay. We had a whole bunch of callers, and now we only have two. But Rebecca is the first one here.
Wow.
Hi, Rebecca. You have would like to respond?
Yeah, just a quick thought because, I'm a local, go to Cabrillo. But, I've been at Cabrillo for a few years. Not only do I study childhood education, but I'm actually a physics and astronomy major. So, I've never really had a teacher that was the banking method. It was all very, you're here, you're welcome to challenge me. And I think that in this area, we're very blessed to have that. So just that guy, I didn't want anyone to feel discouraged when approaching education. Better yourself for sure. Be able to critical think and be yourself.
Maybe that's the way they run things at Cabrillo College, and not. Mr. Guest is nodding. Okay. So, Rebecca, you're saying that you haven't experienced any of what you've been hearing on the program today. Is that right?
A little, yeah.
Well, that's reassuring. That makes me feel a whole lot better.
Just, I think also, too, everyone is so concerned about teachers pushing these things into your brain when really, you have the choice to, also think for yourself. So,
but do you believe that what Mystery Guest says is true? If you do think for yourself and thinking for yourself happens to be at odds with what your teacher wants you to believe and think and parrot, that you're going to fail your class?
Well, I mean, let's look at Einstein, same thing. But he, thought for himself and did great things. There are so many people in so many situations where, yeah, of course you can fail, but I guess, you're going to die one day, so just do what you can. I don't know. Just morning coffee.
MG, do you have a response for Rebecca here?
I appreciate her response. I'm glad there are students who think for themselves.
So am I. And I'll bet Rebecca is too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, do you listen to this program very often, or did you stumble upon it today?
I kind of like messing with the radio a little bit, and I stumbled upon it and I listened to it on my way to school, or if I'm just sitting in the parking lot. So and sometimes it's good. I like it. I mean, it challenges me to think from both sides of the spectrum, which I think is healthy.
Yeah, well, that's what we're all about here at KSCO, and I am so proud of that because I don't think there are many other talk radio stations that aren't one way or another instead of being a voice for everyone like we are. We're often accused of being a conservative station because we have Rush Limbaugh on our airwaves. Mm-hmm. But, we have everything else too, and it seems to be that conservative people who appreciate that we have Rush Limbaugh on in this, very liberal area, part of California, Santa Cruz area, use that to brand us as a conservative station. And, I guess we are what people perceive, whether we intend to be that way or not. It's certainly not my intention. I want to be a voice for everyone. I want to have be a voice for open and free dialogue. And I'm horrified and very saddened that we're the only station. We seem to me to be the only station that's like that in the country. And it's the only medium that's like this. Everything else has an agenda, has their own agenda. I've got very strong feelings, but I don't push that on everybody and only have guests who agree with me, Uh-huh. And we have a program. We have a program called the Will and Willie Show that's produced live up in San Francisco. We did one this last week. I think it was Tuesday. And they're on about 3 or 4, probably every quarter, typically. And both Will Durst, who is a comedian up in San Francisco Bay Area, and Willie Brown, and Willie Brown, I mean, he's a famous politician, right? I mean, he's got the Bay Bridge, or half of the Bay Bridge, named after him, which is pretty cool. He's a very nice person. I've met him quite a number of times. He's a very powerful political person, even though he hasn't been mayor of San Francisco for, many years. But I sit and I listen in the front row to the Will and Willie Show as it's being produced. And it turns my stomach. It's hard for me to keep my lunch down because all I hear them doing is bashing Trump and saying what a horrible, condition our country is in because these idiot voters put a guy like Trump in. And it's very hard for me to hold. And if I were to get up and say, hey, I'm a Trump supporter and I object to what you guys are saying, I'd probably be tarred and feathered, and had tomatoes thrown at me. Now, people know that I'm a Trump supporter up there. They just sort of ignore it as long as I'm not in their face about it. But I don't think that any one of the people in that theater, there were probably 40 or 50 of them, I don't think any one of those people would have me on as a guest to talk about, my political thoughts. What they would do is only have their own thoughts. And that's what KSCO is not, and it will never be as long as I'm alive and have anything to do with it. Anyhow, so there's my little speech. I'm so happy to hear from you. You sound like a young person if you're college age. And do you think Griffin Queener speaks fast enough?
Yeah, I'm 22, and I don't know. I mean, I kind of speak a little slow, so I mean, it's all good.
Okay, Rebecca. Keep listening, and thanks for calling.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you.
it. Here comes Brian in Santa Cruz, who has an answer. To what, Brian?
Well, the movement that we're looking at here is spreading to the entire Western world.
Speak a little closer to the microphone, to your phone, please, because we're losing you.
Okay, how's this?
Much better. Good.
Yeah, I'm driving right now, so it might be a little bit messed up. But what we're looking at here is a movement of power and hatred. It is authoritarian and tyrannical in nature. And make no mistake, in order to have tyranny, a movement of tyranny, you need lots of hatred. And it has plenty of that. And it's chosen who to hate and who the perpetrators are. And it goes from there. And we've seen this so many times in history. It's nauseating. And it's taking hold and it's spreading like wildfire, and they're indoctrinating the youth.
It's a I don't mean to put words, but let me see if I understand you. Are you suggesting that the college and university system in the United States are breeding grounds for hatred? Did we lose Brian? I think we lost Brian. And I couldn't wait to hear the answer to that question. And it still says that he's connected, but I don't hear him. All right, well, maybe Brian can call back, or maybe something happened to the cell connection here. Let's take next, and I'm going to ask the same question of Flinks in Aptos. Because it was such a good question, and then there was silence.
Well, I was calling about the teachers.
I know, but just let me ask you this question, then you can go on with what you called about.
Okay.
Do you think that the colleges and universities are primarily there to breed hate towards our way of life and traditional constitution and values that built this country?
No.
Okay. Because I think Brian's answer would have been yes, because I think that's what he was saying, and then but I wish he would call back and find. Okay, I'll shut up and you talk now.
I say no, and I'm I support Trump. I say no to that vacuum of thought. Anyways, I think the voiceover kind of sounds satanic, something out of an Aqua Teen cartoon series, a character from that. But anyways, I think teachers are teaching on a level on how they see things. And if you are broad mind, you want to broaden your mind, you listen to them and you accept what they're saying, and they're teaching a different aspect, and you can broaden your mind by learning what their analysis of things are, and then you just re-express what their analysis is and come to conclusions, and you can agree with them and disagree with them, and you'll still get a good grade as long as you join those two positions together in your essay or your test question. You can disagree with them. I've seen it. You can disagree with them, but you still have to put their point of view
and then to put good analysis on how you disagree with them, and then I think it works and you can pass the class that way.
What do you think, mystery guest? Is Flinks on to something?
I think you've been lucky. I also think you're a free thinker, which is good. What I observed is students coming into the system open-minded, genial, and happy.
I'm going to go. The voice is freaking me out.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, you can listen then. Billy is gone, so we can't change mystery guest's voice. I'm afraid that if I try to do it, I'll screw it up big time. So I'm not gonna mess with anything. But Flinks is very upset. He was so upset he had to leave because he couldn't stand the way your voice has been manipulated here, has been disguised. I'm presuming he's turning off the radio too, because if anything, it'll be a clearer, disturbing voice for him to listen on the radio.
I would like your guests to know that I'm not a mean person. I am disguising my voice because I'm afraid.
Of what?
I'm afraid of vindictive behavior. I want to live where I live and not be threatened. And I have been threatened at the university system on a number of occasions. I've even had my life threatened. So,
do you want to go into more detail about that? That's pretty scary.
Well, yes. In my position, I hired employees. And when I hired employees, I, for the most part, had wonderful people to work with. And for the most part, wonderful students to work with. However, there were many students and a few employees that bought in to being victims, and they bought in to activism, and they bought into exercising incivility. And when you find yourself at the receiving end of incivility, it becomes difficult. Character assassination. And I'll go more into the employee situations later, because it is a story and people should know.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the phone lines now. I'm going to take next, and that would be Colonel Terry, who is always about smart talk. Now, are we making the grade today, Colonel Terry?
Yes, you are, indeed. Well, I'm for smart talk because I've had the wonderful advantage, and I'm grateful for it, to be a very highly educated person as a result of the family I was born into, the educational opportunities I've had, and the other life's journey experiences. I have no superiority over anybody else, but like many millions of people on this planet, I've had the advantage to understand the background of human civilization, how we got where we are, and most importantly, the history of the intellectual experience, the social, the entire history of how we have the United States being as we are, how we are the beneficiaries of, your friend would agree with me, I'm sure your guest, the Enlightenment, the Western civilization Enlightenment that gave us Rousseau, Voltaire, Thoreau, Emerson in the United States. Abraham Lincoln is a product of the Enlightenment, and certainly was Thomas Jefferson. As a result, we also took the advantages of the lessons learned in the history of places that attempted a democracy, as the philosopher Spinoza points out and proves. Democracy starting with ancient Athens, then the Roman Republic, and then the Dutch experience and the English experience demonstrate, as Spinoza documents, that democracies are great to protect our civil liberties. They're wonderful to protect our private property normally, and our rights of free expression. However, democracies suffer, Spinoza proves, from the consequence of too often their citizens are, whatever the 1640 Dutch term for to be bamboozled is, too often the citizens are bamboozled into making as their leaders the most privately corrupt, dishonorable, conniving of some of their citizens. And I will say we've had examples of that. Richard Nixon is an example of that. He proved to be that. Adolf Hitler proved to be such an example.
I can't wait to hear what you say about President Trump.
Well, I want to jump to that topic right away, but I don't want to lose the. I'll jump to that if you insist, MZ, but I'd rather put that off for.
Okay, listen. I want to have you, but there are a lot of other people who want to talk. So
what matters. What matters is that we have the Enlightenment, and it's tragic that the left-wing extreme rejects informed wisdom, what I call informed wisdom, and respect for reality. But the right wing does the same thing in its extreme postures, rejecting respect for informed wisdom and reality, recognition of reality. So I'm sure your guest would agree with me. We need to understand the lessons of the Enlightenment and the lessons of our legal history in the United States that is extremely balanced to have a successful, balanced society that respects justice for all, as we say. And that's possible. It's tragic what I've also seen at UCSC, the left-wing intellectual dishonesty. But there's right-wing intellectual dishonesty at such places as Liberty University and the evangelical schools. Enough said. Would your friend agree with me?
Would my friend and guest agree with me? With you?
Yes, with that.
Yeah.
Yes, Colonel, I agree.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I wish you every success as well. And I wish you liberation from fearing any anxiety, madam.
Madam? How do you know it's a madam? Anyhow, we're going to go on to that. Thank you, Colonel Terry. Here's Nick in Royal Oaks.
This is MZ and his inflatable doll, right? I mean, they can't make a puppet out of anyone, and I point fingers at the EPA.
I'm not sure what you mean, Nick in Royal Oaks, but go ahead.
Well, dumb it down people. I mean, who's got a foot on us?
Oh, okay.
In high school, they started putting pesticides into the air systems. I'm sure that UCSC has its own system. It's a structure, and I think it's pulled by too few strings.
Okay.
So yeah, as far as Terry's saying democracy, and it's great for private property, and we got to realize the lands that we're on, and realize the attitude that it is stolen or we mend it. It's been fierce take, and the university sits high above it all in the structure. And interesting. Can you make my voice sound like that?
If you come down to the studio.
Oh, okay.
At the moment, I could talk to the engineering department about doing that for callers who prefer it, but I don't think it's necessary.
You didn't claim it wasn't your doll.
It's not my doll.
All right, hey, thanks.
Okay, there goes Nick in Royal Oaks. Here comes Rory, spelled R-O-R-R-Y, in Watsonville. About the university. Go ahead, Rory.
Yes, I believe there's certain elements to what your guest is talking about. Is it always at every level of every community college, university? No, but it's there. It's there much more strongly than it was when I was in school 30-plus years ago now. And I saw hints of it at the time. But it's the political correct psychological straitjacket. And they want you to self-censor. There's tremendous peer pressure to not stand for simple things like male and female. Anybody can go to a publication like the College Fix, and there's a high school teacher, I think it was in Virginia, that refused to use the student's preferred pronoun was fired. Now he's suing the school district. So a lot of this stuff. It was a guy. What was it? A guy that wanted to be a. Oh yeah, it was a girl that identified as a male, wanted to be referred to as him. The teacher wouldn't do it, so they fired him. But one of your earlier callers spoke about this is very anti-human, and I believe there's a spiritual element to it. We are spiritual creatures first and foremost, and we have corporal bodies, to be redundant, but we have bodies. And everybody has experienced some level peer pressure, bullying. Doesn't matter. You have to learn how to deal with that as a young person. So we've all experienced it at some level, and that's what I see. I see a leftist bullying where they're very tolerant unless you disagree with them, and then they're very intolerant. I was just curious, and when I say intolerant, they're intolerant of Americanism, American values. They give lip service, but when it comes right down to it, they don't like free speech. They don't like self-defense through the Second Amendment, and you can just go on down the line. I'm just curious what your guest thinks about that, just the unspoken bullying, peer pressure to conform, or you're going to be in trouble.
Yes.
That's the question.
Thank you, Rory.
Does that ring true?
Yes. Once students become indoctrinated and self-identify as a victim, they are encouraged to identify a person, a group, or an organization, and exercise incivility. This is part of their requirement for continuing their education, and it's a segregation.
Yes.
It separates us. We no longer are a community. We're no longer a family. We're no longer friends. And
Correct.
we can't cross into those specific segregations, whether it's races, whether it's sexuality, and the list goes on.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's very devious and underhanded, but you're right. It's dividing and conquering us as a people. We're Americans. We need to rally around our common qualities as Americans, as citizens, and all our rights and privileges that we have as citizens. We need to rally around that and be unified as Americans, even with differences. And that's the beauty of this country. And, the other thing is what we used to call general ed. I don't know if they call it GEs anymore. General ed requirements used to be English, Western civilization, literature, speech, whatever construed the liberal arts, which historically were just the classics, as I understood it. Now they've become leftist brainwashing, politically correct type classes, like emphasizing white privilege, and some of the stuff they've tried to filter it down to the high school level, but there's been a pushback. I'm sure you're aware of that. What was going to be, I think it was not gender identity, but like racial identity type classes in the high school at California, but I think they got pushed back. They were very unpopular. But the general ed requirements, which were historically a liberal arts curriculum that emphasized Western civilization, which we are, have now been turned into anti-Western civilization, anti-Christianity, anti-white, anti-God, you name it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's turned into like a demon-possessed, screw the country that you're a part of. That's the way I see it. So anyway, I'll let you go, but thank you, and I'm listening to the great show, MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. And MG, you want to respond to something that Rory said?
Yes, Rory, there is a process that's going on in our education that makes it okay to rewrite history. to eliminate history, to change history. Why would you want to do that? And why would you want everyone to be at each other's throats? Why segregate?
My answer to that is divide and conquer.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. We do have a caller, Dick in Santa Cruz, who has a question for Mr. Guest. Hi. How you doing there, Dick?
Hey, Mike, I got to commend you on this show, man. I mean, isn't it ironic that an educator has to disguise the voice, and she's, supposedly
she
or he? Okay, don't get so touchy. It's ironic that it's her, that it's an educator, and they're afraid for their life, and they're at the top of the intellectual pile in directing our young, like Rush would say, minds full of mush. The kids. So it's a deep problem in society. Here you are. This is one of the deepest, most insidious problems in our society. Here's a prime example. This poor, and I'm sorry, she is the victim. I mean, Antifa, they're like the brown shirts and Mao's Cultural Revolution, and she knows it. They'll go after her, or him, or whatever. I just want to make a point that it's the foundation. She was asking about. I like to ask her, what do they want to change the history to exactly? And I also
great question.
Have one other
yeah,
follow-up question.
I want to hear that too.
I want one more question after that.
Okay. What do you say, MG? What do they want? What do they want to switch people to?
If you erase horrible dictators, people like Hitler, if you eliminate them from history, and their communism and their socialism not working, then you can move an entire generation to being okay with communism.
Wow. I had just two more quick questions for her or for him. How did you get hired? Did you hide your beliefs? And do you think there's a soft coup against Trump going on at the top levels of our country right now because of all of this?
I believe there is a coup attempt.
And how can there be a coup attempt? Do you think, I don't want to get into conspiracies, but is it a natural occurrence of the outgrowth of the 70s and the way this PC correctness started, all this, groupthink stuff? Do you have any idea why the top people in our government want to bring it down?
If I were to point to one thing, I would say globalism.
Yeah.
And I would say that there are people who want the power of the world.
Are you saying a universal type of system?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
That coincides with an email that came in just a moment ago from Charles Bradley to MZ at KSCO. Hi, in response to Saturday 10:45 a.m., I am doing some work for UCSC and Berkeley today. They are influenced by the one world government movement. Feel free to break these statements apart. Yes, old biblical prophetic history. What happens to America before Jesus comes back? Thank you, Local 831. That's what it says. Interesting timing for this email to come in during this phone conversation.
It's not, Michael, it's not a conspiracy. This is going on. You have to talk about these things. And I just, once again, I want to thank your guests and I want to thank you.
Well, thank you for thanking us. Okay, take care. There goes Dick in Santa Cruz. Now we've got Steve from Palm Springs, and this is Steve Lightfoot because it even says so.
Hey,
how you doing, Steve? What's up? Are you enjoying our program today, and you have some thoughts to contribute?
Well, I'm down out of the area, L.A. and San Diego, now Palm Springs, spreading the gospel with my new van. But I only got on radio once in San Diego, and I had something really good to say. I'd just like to share it with you in alignment with this impeachment procedure.
Gee, we want to keep to the subject here, Steve. I don't think it's appropriate to get off. I'm such a nice guy in the past. I've allowed that to happen, and I don't want to do it this time.
If I do it in less than a minute?
Okay. Yeah.
I said, with the CIA as the whistleblower, you can't rule the CIA out of this whole thing, this cabal, this soft coup, or hard coup, whatever you want to call it. And so you have to look who helped invent the CIA. This man has a tower in New York City that is the biggest Trump tower. He prints most of your magazines. He hosts NBC Studios. He is Rockefeller. His grandfather invented the CIA with the government. Why am I having to tell you this? Because your government media won't. You people, you're so close to going communist with your media and your Pelosi's and your Schiffs. I worry for you. Wake up, people.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Steve. I'm happy I'm happy we went along with that. Appreciate it, and thanks for listening. Okay, gee, we've got about 2.5 minutes before the top of the hour. We do have a full hour ahead of us talking about the indoctrination of students in vast numbers here in the United States of America. It's been going on for decades, and it seems to be getting more intense these days because the universities are more brazen about it, it seems to me. Now, if anyone wants to take issue with anything we're saying, please call us at 479-1080. That's in area 831. Or please email mz@ksco.com. Here's something very interesting. An email that that came in earlier from Andres. Your current guest is barely legal, maybe. Did you hear about the new state law that made deep fake, in quotes, media criminal? The way it is written could be interpreted to include what you are doing now. Good luck. Keep up the good work. Wow. What do you think? What do you think, mystery guest, about that?
I have no comment.
Okay. I'm going to press the off mic button to clear my throat because I don't want to subject our audience to my clearing my throat. There. Wasn't that considerate of me? And don't I sound a little better? So, anyhow, all right. Oh, God. Billy and Griffin Queener, seem to be somewhat entertained by my antics. And all I'm trying to do is fill up the last minute before the news with my mystery guest. But anyhow, we want to see if we can come up with some suggestions about how to keep our country the way it was intended to be instead of this massive transformation that seems to be going on right now. And we're going to use the next hour to do that. Is this clock right? Is it 50, 51, 52? Okay, so I will get...
Crash near SoCal. As for weather, it is 63 degrees out right now. We're going to hit a high of 82, and I'm out of time. It is now time to return to the Saturday special with Michael Zwerling.
No wonder you're out of time. You were so damn slow. On second thought, go back to the fast talk.
All right.
All right, so, jeez. But thank you for trying. It just sounded so weird. I just didn't know what to do. And look what it did. It stretched it out twice to be twice as long. All right, thank you, Griffin Queener. So let's see. We need to start the second hour officially. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about last week, because some things I've had an epiphany or two about last week. So here this is the second hour. This proves that this is the second hour of the Saturday Special. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, hello, darling. I hate to hang up on you, but I'm sorry, baby, but I have to go. It's time for that wonderful record show. I'd love to visit, but you'll have to call back. KSCO has the inside track.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, because we live in a democracy here at KSCO, I'm going to put it out. Should Griffin Queener continue to speak fast or slow?
I'm sorry, baby, but I really gotta go to KSCO Radio. Bye.
And I want every caller to weigh in on that, okay? Just for the rest of the show. Okay, welcome back to the Saturday Special. We have our mystery guest talking about indoctrination, left-wing indoctrination. And is there any right-wing indoctrination going on anywhere that anybody knows? That we could talk about that and should. But before we get into that, I want to thank our KSCO General Manager, Michael Olson, for suggesting the topic of last week. It sort of reminded me of the good old days of the Saturday Special 20-plus years ago when I used to get compliments. And then it sort of deteriorated into me having my little ego trip Saturday Specials and you know, karaoke and stuff like that. I've wanted to go back to the Saturday Specials with substance. And it was Michael who put the idea in my head that I should reach out for the Zach Voorhees, who is the whistleblower with Google, formerly with Google, who quit. He was not fired. He quit because he could no longer, in good conscience, continue to work for such a powerful organization that he was convinced did not have any kind of other than its own agenda to force on the whole world. So he couldn't continue that. And that show that we did last week got me more compliments than I have received in memory for it. Now, hopefully this show will too. Hopefully, you know, because we want to get on a roll again, right? But I shared with Michael on the telephone after the show. I called him, maybe it was even the next day, and I said, "Did you hear the show?" He hadn't heard it yet, but he was going to listen on the podcast, you know, because everything we do on KSCO here is available on demand at zbsradio.com and ksco.com, and the best place to get it is from our free apps. You know, you search for KSCO on your Android or your iPad or your iPhone or whatever. Everything we do, you can listen to on demand. We don't promote that as nearly as much as we should here on the radio. Say people think, "Oh, I missed it. Sorry." Well, it doesn't matter if you missed it, because if it's something that you regret that you missed, it's real easy to pull it up on demand whenever you want, you know. And so what I shared with Michael is even before I actually did the show, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, I said, "Hey, just for the hell of it, I'm going to Google the background of this guy that I'm about to interview," and a whole bunch of stuff came up that scared me. You know, that this guy they tied him to white supremacist and racist and Holocaust denier and Jew hating and Israel hating. And I said, "Oh my God, I don't want to go down that road again." And I said, "Should I cancel this?" And no, I just didn't cancel it. So we went ahead and did the show, got all the compliments. And Michael, and I said, I sort of want to help this guy in my small way get his message out to others in a big, people called and said, MZ, you have connections in the radio industry, use them and help this guy get his message out. And so I don't want to help somebody who is a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so I shared that with my friend Michael, and who had suggested this topic and guest. And he said, well, did you Google the guy or did you use any other? I said, yeah, I just Googled. Oh, now that makes sense. So I said, I'm going to do a background search of the guy using another search engine. So I used Bing, and none of that negative stuff came up. So, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. I mean, it made me, after hearing 2 hours of the guy talking about how scary Google is, that sealed the deal right then and there. That sealed the deal. Okay? So I just wanted to, so many people, a number of people called during the program to say, I don't use Google. I use Duck something or other because, they're not, they're not political and they're not manipulative. If someone isn't political and manipulative today, there's no guarantee that tomorrow they won't be. But so you just got to be real careful. Who do you believe? Who do you trust? Well, you can trust KSCO, of course. But whom do you trust, I think, is the right, proper. Anyhow, I just wanted to get that out. And I also want to put this out for people to weigh in on. So I don't want to give people a whole bunch of things, but because I really want to continue our discussion that we did all last hour. But tomorrow, I am going to a picnic in San Francisco, Telegraph Hill, thing. And this group has been around since 1950. And they're very politically powerful, apparently, and I assume pretty left-wing, because everything in San Francisco is left-wing. Do I dare wear my Make America Great Again hat to this picnic? Mystery guest is shaking its head. I know. I shouldn't have even asked that question. It's a no-brainer, but I just can't stand it. I'm tempted. I'm just to see what happens. But not a good idea because I could create violence. And I learned that lesson supposedly a year and a half ago when I almost got killed at the restaurant. What was it? It was called, I'll think of it. It starts with H. Houston's restaurant on the Embarcadero. Really good food, but and there were a couple of people who pat me on the back and shook my hand because I wore a Make America Great Again hat by mistake because I thought I was wearing my red KSCO hat, right? And 2 people congratulated me, and I realized, oh my God, I'm wearing a hat that I wouldn't expect anybody in San Francisco to congratulate me about. And then the next person almost killed me. I'm not exaggerating. That person was violent. Okay, let's get back to. Do you want to? Did we sort of get cut off at the end of the hour, mystery guest?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So you have anything to begin the second hour with, or do you want to just go back to callers because we do have several callers on the line?
Well, you have just brought up fear, and fear is a healthy response. It sometimes keeps you alive. I spoke about my fear, and I'd like to give a little more information. In my position at the university, I was responsible for writing job descriptions and hiring. And one time I hired an employee who came into the position, worked for a few weeks, and then stopped doing the job and started telling me what job they wanted to do. This employee did not make it through the 6-month probationary period. I released the employee. The result of that was a nightmare. The individual threatened my life. The individual felt so entitled, they left voicemail with the threat.
Sort of stupid.
Entitled.
Still sort of stupid. God.
But you can imagine how scared I was.
Yeah, I can. Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure, yeah, it was a stupid thought that I had. I have my share of them. Okay, back to the phone lines. I'm going to say take next, and that will be Fox in the Soquel Hills. Hi, Fox in the Soquel Hills.
Hey, good morning, MZ and guests, and thank you, Michael, for having another special Saturday special. My question for your guest is, being that I was in Sacramento yesterday for another rally for child and family rights, an issue that was brought up several times was the move by the government to make more health care providers, doctors and nurses, and educators, teachers, administrators, mandated reporters to the Health and Human Services, mainly Child Protective Services, which they have renamed to Child and Family Services. This is very disturbing to us. What is your guest's opinion about forcing educators to be mandated reporters to this government agency?
Well, not directly to this subject, but in a similar way. When you offer classes that address control of public health, it is a movement, and it's taking away rights that I think we all felt we had at one time. And I feel like our rights are being eliminated every day. The way we dress, the way we talk, and that we have to accept somehow incivility, no matter who it comes from, and we have to accept their truth. What you tell me upsets me. It concerns me. Are we creating brown coats? Are we creating red coats? Are we creating a whole guard that rats out parents, relatives, friends, families, organizations? Why are we segregating? I don't know. I don't know other than to say there are individuals that want complete and total control.
The teachers I know that are older, that are getting ready for retirement, are really happy that they're there because they will not go along with this new agenda of control, which is deja vu of Nazi Germany. And the new teachers that are just newly hatched from university are fine with it because they don't know any different. And it's frightening and sad, and we're not going to stand for it.
How are you not going to stand for it? Be specific, please, Fox.
We're still working with the legislature to replace, not reform, the existing system. People are learning about the law and how it's being perverted. and we are bringing to the forefront the mental health issue, how when children are forcibly separated from their family, it does cause brain damage, physical brain damage. They have an emotional network that is no longer functioning as normal, and there is mental health problems down the road, along with addiction, homelessness, suicide, you name it. And we're bringing that up in their face every chance
It
we
sure
get.
seems to resonate with reality, what you're saying, because there's more and more of those bad things popping up every day. More homelessness, more drug addiction. Wow. God.
I was at yet another suicide prevention little seminar a couple of weeks, almost a month ago or so, and I went up to the coordinator and one of the trainers and told them we're with Child and Family Rights advocates, and we are working to stop the destruction of families, because we are seeing the pattern where it ends up parents are committing suicide from losing their kids, and children are committing suicide for losing their families. And I got a big thank you for working upstream at the root of the problem, at the cause of it, instead of being at the end of the stream where they're getting all the homelessness and suicides there.
So everything was kudos, no criticism, huh?
No.
Good.
No.
Good. You're having an impact. That's great. What you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, but thank your guest so much, because I had a cousin that was hired at the university for setup before it opened up, and he was doing like electrical and bookshelves, and he overheard some of the professors who were socialist communists, and at Thanksgiving said, we have made a huge mistake letting this university into our town. I don't know if we can stop it or turn it around.
Well, I don't mean to be negative, but I don't think you can stop it nor turn it around. So,
yeah.
Anyhow.
Thank you, MZ. Thank you for the show. Thank your guests, and thank you for all the wonderful things you do for us.
And thank you, Fox. Here's Downtown Al. Hey, you're on the Saturday special with MZ and MG.
Okay, Michael and mystery guest MG. I think to try and correct any problem, you got to know what its origins are. And, the guest keeps referring to the use of incivility by people. But you have to remember the term that commonly comes out in these groups of protesters that you see everywhere else is by any means necessary. By any means necessary. So it's not just incivility. It's violence. It's character assassination. It's lies. Fabrication of facts, shaming, property destruction, revisionist history, blocking speakers with different views, demonization of individuals. You can just go on and on and on. It's a violent attack in many cases. And it's really all about rejecting the Western canon. That's a collection of ideas that, it's commonly referred to as like, Judeo-Christian ideas or values. But, which has always kind of bothered me because it's not just Judeo-Christian ideas. It's Greco-Roman, Anglo-Saxon, as well as Judeo-Christian. It's all those things that we think about that, from the ancient Greeks and Romans and the Jews and, Germanic tribes that came up with, common law. And, ultimately, it's a rejection of the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, rationalism, scientific theory, logic, debate, and all the things that brought us like democracies and republics that actually work. And that's what they're trying to tear down by any means necessary. And, they use things like critical theory. This is trot as like a methodology where you take those things that the Western canon has brought us, whether it's Shakespeare or, film or whatever, and you criticize and tear it apart. You analyze it by, gender studies. You analyze it by feminist theory. I had friends that were taking English literature. Shakespeare is being analyzed about, how anti-feminist this was. Well, yeah, it was, but, it also has a lot of other great values. And to just strictly, analyze it by that view is very destructive. But, you know, I also think that, you know, a lot of it has to do because it's been the failure of communism. Because, you know, when Marxist theory came out, it was all that this is scientific. It's logically going to proceed in this way, and that we're going to have thriving economies. We're going to have everybody fed, everybody clothed, everybody's going to have an automobile or whatever. But, you know, the 20s and 30s, 40s, 50s, that all proved that was an empirical failure, that none of that stuff really worked when you looked at it on, you know, on paper. People were not being fed. People were not being housed as best they could. And that, you know, Western free market systems were doing better than that. And I think at that point, they could no longer say it was scientific. It wasn't a logical sort of, you know, political system that was allowing the, you know, the communist ideas to succeed. And I think that's where they really started to go off from science and logic and whatever with this postmodernist, you know, critical theory to just tear apart everything in the West because they couldn't win on the same battleground with ideas and logic and debate. And that's what they're doing in our universities. They're laying waste to that system. You know,
not so much in the natural sciences, though. Would you agree?
Well, and you know that's where I come from. You know, it first this rot first spread into the liberal studies,
liberal arts,
the softer pseudosciences, sociology, psychology. Unfortunately, history with, you know, revisionist history. Those have always been the most vulnerable. But, you know, it started now to rot the hard sciences. And in fact,
really?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you know, I want to know more about that, Downtown Al. Go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, for example, I have a sticker up here on my wall that I swiped or whatever, and I noticed they were going up on all the instructors' doors all over the place at Cabrillo, but they were starting, of course, with anthropology, sociology, psychology, and it identifies it as a safe space. It's a lesbian, gay, male, bisexual, transgender questioning. You know, this space is identified as a safe space, blah, blah, blah. And it's really offensive because it seems to give the idea that there's mobs of white, cis, homophobic males wandering around with brickbats waiting to attack, you know, people who have alternate sexual style or preferences, which is not true at all. And I noticed that they were trying to pass them out in the chemistry areas, in the biology areas, physics, engineering, and those instructors were not putting them up on their doors. And I think, you know, they found it kind of offensive because nobody has any intention of doing anything like that to other individuals. You know, this is supposed to be a place of civility and learning, and acceptance about different ideas, you know, that can be debated and talked about. But what really tells you now that they've tried to get into the hard sciences is this whole rejection of biological sex. The idea that a man who grows breasts and has his package cut off and altered is now a female and has to be identified as such. You know, it progressed from just to talk about a change in gender to where, no, this is truly a sex. And, you know, I know very intelligent people that will insist to me that there's no difference between men and women and that it's all because of society. And that's absolutely wrong.
My nephew was last year kicked out of his high school because he said to somebody, quote, "I know you're a girl," unquote. Right. That was the end of his, and he didn't mind it because he didn't like the school anyhow. He thought they were full of weirdos, you know, and politically correct asses. And now I think he's at another high school that's like 30 or 40 miles away, but he's a lot happier. So.
Well, you know, the thing is, even if he had said something that was like offensive, he shouldn't have been attacked or kicked out or anything like that. You know?
I know you're a girl. Can you believe that? Oh,
that reminds me. I had a niece, and when she was little, one of her grandmothers would always give her these short, kind of like bowl haircuts. And they had this old grandmother who was this old Dutch farm lady from Iowa, and she's like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" So my brother-in-law says, "Go just pull your pants down and just show her."
Hey, before you leave downtown, Al, I got to say, you brought up the term "by any means possible" earlier in the conversation. By any means possible. It made the first time I heard that was back when the Nighthawk, Dave Allen, was. We need to dedicate this program to the memory of Dave Allen, because he was something really special and really ahead of his time here on the radio. But I remember that he was so offensive to some people that those people said, "Remove the paint." Sent me an email or a fax then, or maybe a snail mail. "Remove the painter by any means possible." But go ahead. Mystery guest has something to say here, real quick.
When you keep hearing that common term, "by any means necessary," those sort of terms are being propagated throughout society or academics or whatever. That stuff is in the literature, and it's being inculcated into
in the liturgy.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd like to hear what your mystery guest has to say here, because she keeps using the civil term incivility, but it's much worse than that. It's slashed tires, it's paint, it's on your vehicle.
Well,
it's
that's incivility.
It's violent attacks. Yeah, that comes under incivility, but that doesn't really.
It doesn't describe Antifa, does it?
No, it doesn't.
You're correct. The courses that are being slipped into every department, every specific study. For instance, capitalism crisis. Guess where you can take that class and where it's mandatory? It's in the mathematics, and it's in sciences. So it is going into every field.
Well, I agree, because, that's been the last holdout, because it has been, necessarily based on, physics, things beyond our human control, and, it's infected economics, et cetera, but it's going, it's starting to spread its rot, its cancer into the biological sciences, and, physics and everything else. And I don't think it's going to be too much longer before those start to fail in some way, unless it's resisted somehow. And the whole question comes about, how do you resist this sort of thing? I don't know what some of the solutions are, and you'll find that kids that I've tutored or whatever, they're getting this stuff no longer just in the universities. It used to be they had to wait until the university. They're getting it now in elementary school, preschool, high school, and the internet and social media is a way to spread this. For example, you hear all these complaints about, Trump was conspiring with the Russians to influence the election. Well, if you take a look at AJ Plus, I don't know if you're familiar with AJ Plus, but it's Al Jazeera, which is an Arabic-based news service out of Qatar, and it's specifically designed as an online news source for youth. And I went and looked at kind of its evolution. It's based in San Francisco. Now, wouldn't you think an Arab-based one would be in the Middle East somewhere? But no, it's based in San Francisco. Wouldn't you think that an Arab-based one would first come out in Arabic? No, it came out in English first, and then it came out in Spanish, and then it finally came out in Arabic. This is an attempt to manipulate our youth as well as voting in this system, and it's ridiculous to think that it's only the Russians that are doing something like this. You've got, this Arabic, Muslim-based, Middle East news service that is online, and it's very, very critical of American society, and it doesn't just pick on one thing. It talks about how racist we are and how misogynist we are, etc. So, this is going on not only in academia, but, in the news media and online, where most youth spend their time now. That's where they get their news from. It's on online services and through social media.
Oy vey, as we say here in the business. Anyhow, DTA, thank you for calling the Saturday Special.
So,
Always
Mike,
great to hear from you.
Michael, if I could say one last thing.
Okay.
I think we need to have a Soros who is a conservative, somebody who's willing to dump some money, and a big amount of money, into something to counter this sort of thing. Because these guys with all this money dump it in all sorts of non-governmental organizations that are changing the structure of our society.
Let's put out... Gee, do you think such a person exists? I mean,
I don't know.
The billionaires that I know, with the exception of Trump, right, like all the high-techy billionaires are all lefty loons, every one of them that I can think of. But that's a great idea. Let's put it out on little old KSCO right now today. Well, you just did, actually. Is there anybody out there, probably not listening now, but, let's put the word out. KSCO suggests that one of the things that could heal our nation is getting a George Soros who's not mentally ill, who will pump a bunch of money. I mean, if I had a bunch of money, I think I would answer that.
Well, I know you do more than you should in a lot of ways, and that's why I'm so grateful for you, and so many hundreds of thousands of other people are also.
Geez,
you're
wow!
A great benefit to this, not only this community here, but this entire society. So yeah, I'd like to hear maybe some solutions. Some people will say homeschooling, blah blah blah, but we got to have more than that.
Yeah, a Soros equivalent on the right. Fascinating. Thank you, Downtown Al. Appreciate it. Okay, here's Pure Heart and Aptos about school and indoctrination. Pure Heart, you're on.
Well, that was a tour de force call, which is very hard to follow. Downtown Al's hitting on all cylinders there.
Yeah.
Wow. But let me first say that Griffin Cleaner speaks properly and deliberately on all cases. So.
Even when he's fast?
Oh, well, whatever. If he has to be, he has to be for his brutal boss.
He doesn't have to. He made a really good attempt at speaking so that old people can understand.
Well, he has to satisfy his brutal management there on the phone. What can he do? But anyway, gosh, I've lost my train of thought with Al there. But you kind of hit the nail straight on the head with your opening remarks when you you invited opposing calls to come and explain why they oppose the topic. And that's what's lacking nowadays, like Al already had mentioned. The astronomy meeting, most recently, they had to get up and they had to kind of list off their male privilege before they could start having the astronomy conference. So that's another example of things leaking into the sciences. If people want to, flesh out more of what Downtown Al said, you can listen to the videos of Jordan Peterson and Janice Fiamengo. They kind of go along those lines. But I'm just, I lost my whole train of thought. One small thing we can do to kind of fight what's going on is just not use the word democracy, which they said in the Federalist Papers, and we don't want that.
Constitutional republic. Right?
Yeah, it always degrades into a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the 1960s speeches by politicians, they always properly said republic. So we could at least start that way by just...
So I will apologize for using that term earlier in this broadcast.
So whenever we hear people say democracy, just correct them to its republic, and maybe they'll kind of wonder what that means and look it up and kind of start, thinking about Americanism.
Great point, Pure Heart.
That's all
Thank you
I've
for
got,
making
though.
it.
But kudos to Al again.
Okay, yeah, ditto. Yeah, I'm all for that. Okay, now we're going to go to Andreas himself, who sent an email earlier. Now, where'd you get that information about that's this scary thing that's that the legislature? Which legislature is it? California? What is it?
Yeah, in the state government. I saw this. I think it was a link from the Drudge Report. Says that, and I think this could even affect memes. The way that it's written, it says something along the lines of, it's trying to address deep fake reports that are trying to pass off as news. But deep fake is when you edit a video that you edit it so well that it appears to be real. That's a deep fake. But it sounds like this law is going into all media, not just videos. So if you have a doctored audio or picture, and it sounds like you might not be defended by claiming comedy if you're trying to make a funny thing, a political funny thing. From what I read in the article, I haven't read the law. I just read the article. It says any sort of distortion, the way they see it, will be criminal, and they're trying to do this before the next election. They're focusing on political speak and political outcomes. So who knows what will come of this, or if it'll even be signed, or if it will be contested in federal court as abridging free speech. I don't know. It's definitely, I think, even though they're trying to...
Mystery guest has some comment here, so go ahead, mystery guest.
Deep fake reports are often humor or satire in their content. For instance, you put President Trump's head on a woman's body, and the video looks real. The problem with making one more piece of our First Amendment disappear is now we're including cartoons, satire, and so on and so forth. So restricting speech is a huge part of my concern with higher education.
And at this point, it's reaching out. This perversion of reality is stepping out of just the colleges, and it's becoming law. Just as before this law, or this proposed law, there was criminalization of misidentifying someone based on gender. I think I've heard that. I don't know what the full ramifications are of the calling someone a him or a her when they identify as something other than that. That had already happened. And then there's talk about banning flavors, which right now is just in terms of vaping, but that's another attack on freedom and liberty along those lines, expression and imagination. I have a solution, a possible solution for the university. You've heard it, I've heard it said that money is the mother's milk of politics, I think is how it goes. Why not go after some of their funding? If we can't find a Soros on our side or the opposite side, why not try to cut off as much as we can from the university? And I'm almost certain they receive federal funding. I have a solution for it's kind of a twofer solution. One, to stir them up and maybe wake them up, some of them, and at the same time put them in a position where they might be compromising their federal money at UCSC, if they even get any. I don't really know if they get any, but I'm sure they do. That new executive order that maybe a few months ago, maybe a year ago, Trump put out, saying that if you, and this was all started by Milo Yiannopoulos when he got banned from speaking, that if you don't protect freedom of speech on campus, you have your federal funding in jeopardy. I think right after that there should have been a lot more controversial guest speakers at places like UCSC. I haven't heard of one.
It ain't going to happen because there's nobody to sponsor it. You got to have someone, a student organization sponsor it.
And well, let's think positively. I've reached out to the college Republicans a few times, and I made a suggestion, but they didn't seem all that interested in having Ted Nugent as a guest up there. I don't know why.
Wow.
Can you imagine having Ted Nugent up there?
We'll sponsor Ted Nugent at the Boardwalk or the Civic Auditorium or someplace. I'd love to hear Ted Nugent. I love that guy. He's fantastic.
I agree, but the point is to get him or someone like him into the UC system so that can also be defunded. And you're saying there has to be a sponsoring student body.
Well,
group.
maybe that rule can be changed, okay? Because that's my understanding.
We can create a free speech group that's not a Republican group that's maybe a little too afraid or I don't know what their deal is, but they're not interested in causing the commotion. I think they want peace rather than liberty. So maybe creating a free speech group up there, and who better to sponsor a student group like that than you? You could give them tours of the radio, talk to them about how you promote both sides of ideas, teach them how to use both sides of their brain, politically speaking and otherwise. I don't know.
Do you think I can really do that? Do you think we can do that with a radio station?
You have interns there sometimes, and aren't some of those interns from UCSC?
Yeah.
Maybe not all of them, but you have some local community play. You're an alumni of UCSC. You could totally create a free speech club that either meets out of your station or somewhere on campus that is a UCSC student group and invite people that might be controversial to speak at UCSC.
I just love that idea. I think
and then at the same time,
cool.
if they don't put up with it up there at UCSC, if they don't give you the protection of free speech on a public campus, then they're putting their federal money on the line.
No, but what they're going to do is what they did with Ann Coulter and with Milos, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, they're going to say, hey, it's so controversial that it's going to require a lot of extra police work, and someone's got to pay for it. It ain't going to be us, so it's got to be you. And then I'll say, well, gee, I don't think I want to do that or can. And then they'll say, well, you know what they'll say.
No,
then there's no deal, and that's how they kill it.
That was before the executive order, and I think the executive order addresses that. They must now.
They must pay for it. They must use. Well, then, are they prevented from from demanding that someone like me who wants to put it on and expose the people on campus to an alternate point of view? And they know, and they're probably correct. They're probably behind, kicking up the student protests and so forth, and not allowing them to speak. I keep referring to David Horowitz. When I went to visit, they wouldn't let the poor guy. They wouldn't let him say anything because of what he stood for. They hissed and spit and jeered and just wouldn't let anybody say anything. And
now
that's
imagine Ted Nugent. Now imagine
exactly.
Position.
And so I, all due respect, and I'm actually sounds like I'm defending the university police, but if they come and say we're going to have a lot of extra, security here, that someone has to pay for, and that someone is you or the group that's sponsoring, or the individual, the group who's sponsoring this.
The UC system is vast, and they have a lot of resources. It's almost like another CHP, but on a smaller scale. They could bring in cops from around the state, and do what they have to do their public duty. They get their money from the taxes, and those taxes come from the local residents of California. They're supposed to be upholding our rights, and that executive order, I believe, deals with what they have to do, what they're obligated to do. And if they don't, then they're going to start losing out money.
That is just fascinating. Yeah, MG, what's up?
He's right. The problem is money. So when these student organizations put on an event, they are responsible for financing it. So if it does require lots of cops, lots of police, anything that's necessary for safety, anything, that money has to come from somewhere. Student organizations raise money, but they can't raise that kind of money.
So we're back to Milos and Ann Coulter.
Then
You know,
what was
that's
the
the
point of that
reason
executive
that
order?
that's the current reason. Well,
If we're in square one where we started, then it sounds like that executive order didn't really do anything.
well, I haven't seen you had. I forgot about it until you brought it up. To be honest, you know.
I don't know. I would review that and check that out, because from what it sounded like when I was first reported, that order said that it must be protected, and that falls not on the students, but it falls on the university system.
Yeah, Wayne LaPierre would be another good speaker to
He's
have.
a lawyer, isn't he?
I don't know. I think so. Maybe, but he's head of the NRA, and that would be a wonderful speaker for us to sponsor at UCSC, if we could. You know,
anybody. Anyways, that's,
and if not
that's
at
the idea.
if not at UCSC, then we'll sponsor him there. Here's an email. Thank you for calling, Andres.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Have a
your
good day.
You too. This email came in from Richard. I don't know which Richard, but it says, Michael, please ask your guest his thoughts about climate change in the context of the indoctrination of students. I call what students are being taught is pseudoscience fascism. What do you think, MG?
Climate change. Again, I go back to eliminating history to tell a new story and a new truth. What's happening with climate change is we're taking the statistics of 450,000 years that we actually have and forgetting it. We just forget it. It doesn't apply. We've had tracking of CO2 and temperatures. The phase we're in right now is no different than many phases over the last 450,000 years. But that does not fit into climate change, which I believe is all about taxation and another money source for government.
Okay. We are in the home stretch. About less than 6 minutes remain on this edition of the Saturday Special with a mystery guest, and the topic being indoctrinations at the colleges and universities. If you want to get in on making a comment on the air, being part of the program, now is the time to call 479-1080. That's area 831 if you're outside of the 831 area code. Or you can send an email to mz@ksco.com that I will get and read if it's not too offensive. Should I read the offensive ones anyhow? Yeah, mystery guest says yes. Okay. And it looks like we're getting a call here. And like I said, we have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes. And if you want to call 479-1080 and become part of the program, we encourage you to do so. Okay? I think if there was more of a concerted effort to have programs like this in media, in social media, in traditional media, mystery guest, don't you think, there could be some improvement? If we made it, let's just make it a cause celeb. It deserves to be. It should be. Wow, it's really filling up now. Okay, let's see what Mark in Monterey has to say about climate change. You're on, Mark.
Yeah, I'm wondering why your guest is only saying 450,000 years. We have about 800,000 years of climate data from ice cores, and we've never seen CO2 this high or going up this quickly.
Well, what do you think, mystery guest?
I've looked at different charts. I don't know which one to believe.
Well, there's a pretty good scientific consensus. Ice core samples are very easy to delineate, and there's huge amounts of data on them, so I'm not sure where you're getting your data.
Where are you getting yours?
IPCC, USCG, there's many sources that have done ice core samples on both poles. You know how you get the temperature data from an ice core? You know how to do that?
No, not personally. Again, all I've reviewed is charts.
Okay, so you really don't know that much about climate change then, if you don't even know how you get the temperature from an ice core sample.
I don't claim to be an expert, no.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up.
Okay, thank you, Mark in Monterey. Here's Sean in Live Oak. You're on KSCO, Sean.
Yeah, the mystery guest's comments on revisionist history, especially now that you're talking about climate change. The Viking settlement in Greenland was done during the two mini ice ages and was succeeded. But when the last mini ice age came through, that settlement completely failed. All people died. So it's just like I had just seen that this just relatively common knowledge doesn't seem to be known, that we've had lots of this climate fluctuation, and it seems like ice ages are more of a problem for human civilization than warming periods.
Okay. Hey, thank you very much for calling 479-1080. Rich in Salinas will be our last caller today. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I wanted to point it back to what you started out with when you were in that restaurant and the gentleman came up and didn't like the way you had that hat on there, you were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's a breakdown of societal norms, and that's the very bottom. Somebody can't just come up there. You can have them arrested for assault if that's the case. They can't do that to you, but they do. It's all about the homeless in San Francisco doing their business on the ground there instead of going to a latrine somewhere. You know, they don't arrest them. They just hire a bunch of people and go clean it up. Society is falling apart, and whenever you see this happening, this is globalism. They got to break down society, break down the family, break down everything. Trump's in their face. He's breaking their system down, and they don't like it. So whenever you see anybody, Democrat or Republic, that goes against Trump, they're globalists. That means Romney's a globalist. Even though he's a Republican, he's not. They're all phony. That's all it comes down to. This is a matter of life and death for all of us because of societal norms all break down where we have nothing to fall back on like the family or churches or whatever. We're all doomed. We are. But the guy coming up to you, that's where you got to stop it. Right there when they start doing it to you personally.
Well, he didn't touch me. He came within microns of touching my nose with his.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been face to face with people too, and you got to keep your cool. But you can't do the first thing. If they do something, then you have every right to do everything you want to them, whether it's beat the crap out of them or call the police or whatever. But
Wow.
you can't let people tell you what to do.
Okay. Hey, that's it. Thank you very much. Mystery guest, thank you. Thank you, Griffin Queener, and thank you all the callers. That's it for today, and we'll see you next week, hopefully.
That's all, folks.
This is KSCO, Santa Cruz, Salinas, Monterey, San Jose. It's 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 Monterey, San Jose. It's